Welcome to Take Two with Freddy. Real talk about second chances, real life, and the power of rewriting your story. I'm Freddy Freundlich, entrepreneur, mentor, and storyteller. And here's the deal. If I didn't walk it, I don't talk it. Each week, we'll spend some time laughing, reflecting, and hopefully walking away a little more inspired than when we came in. So what's on my mind today? I've been thinking about a hoverboard. Now, I'm not talking about those little things that kids ride today. I'm talking about the hoverboard, the one from Back to the Future. When I say the one from Back to the Future, I'm talking about the one. I don't know if you guys remember that movie. It came out in 1985, had Michael Fox and Christopher Lloyd in it, and it was basically a really cute, fun movie about a teenager named Marty McFly who accidentally travels back in time to the year 1955. And as I said, it was a very enjoyable movie, very fun, and very popular. So, of course, when you have a popular movie, you come up with the sequel. And the sequel was about that Marty goes this time into the future. And in that future, he rides a hoverboard. Now, I have to explain to you that Marty was in his real life, meaning 1985, he was a skateboard kid. It was his identity. He carried it around everywhere, and that was his mode of travel. So when he's now in the future, instead of a skateboard, he gets to ride a hoverboard, which was very similar to the skateboard, only it floated. In other words, there were no wheels, no ground. I don't know how it exactly worked, but it was just air. So back then, in 1985, that was pure fantasy. It was magic. And today, while to my knowledge, we still don't have a hoverboard which works like that one, or at least as far as I know, it's not commercially available. But let me ask you folks something honestly. Does anyone doubt that if they're not out there yet, they will be? Do any of us really think that's impossible? I was thinking about this because I was actually wondering why it's not out yet. It's just, to me, it's almost a basic. I would expect that to be out now. And then it got me to thinking a bit more, and this became the topic of today's podcast. It seems to me that we're not doubting anymore. And while you'd say, well, what's wrong with that? Let me share with you where I'm coming from. It seems to me that at some point, the impossible started feeling impossible. In other words, back in the 80s, things were developing fast. A lot of new stuff was coming out, but still we imagined what tomorrow would bring. We still said, wow, if they came up with that, that would be incredible. If I think about the hoverboard, it'd be nice. I don't think it'll be incredible. I expect it. Back in those days, we dreamed about things. We wondered about things. We still understood what it was to be amazed. Today, as I fast forward to 2026, I ask myself, how many kids today truly imagine? How many teenagers? How many adults? We rarely say that's impossible anymore. We just say it's not here yet. It has become a very different world. You know, folks, way before my time, really it was in my father's time, there was a cartoon detective named Dick Tracy. And he had a communications device. It was a watch. He could actually talk on this watch. And back in those days, that was like absurd, laughable. It was so so much of a fantasy, and today we actually wear it. Then, when I was growing up, there was a TV show called Get Smart, and it was about this goofy spy, and he had a shoe phone. He would take off his shoe, and he would dial. Most of the new folks hearing this don't even know what a dial is, but he would dial his shoe, and he would talk into it. Again, it's a bit absurd, laughable, but it was just part of the goofy character that he played. And now our phones in real life, it can be anything, and it is everything. And if you told me today that we'd have a communication device implanted into our brain sometime in the next 10 years, I wouldn't doubt you. I'm not predicting it, but I wouldn't be shocked. And that's where we are today. So I ask you, what happened to science fiction? Science fiction used to stretch us. Now it just feels like a preview. When I watch shows today with secret weapons, invisible technology, mind-reading devices, I ask you guys, do we really even doubt them? We just assume. We assume, oh, it probably exists somewhere, or if not, it will soon be. We've really lost the moment of awe. And awe, my friends, is a doorway to imagination. Now, as I've said many times before, most things in life is a double-edged sword. So on the good side, ideas are flowing, and boy, are they flowing. Startups are popping up all over, all the time. And first of all, where are startups formed? They first form in the imagination of one or more people. And then many of these people will get together in coffee shops, bars, wherever, and they'll hash it out. And they'll have conversations, and they'll even write things on napkins. And some of these napkins, fast forward not even a long time, may turn into multi-billion-dollar ventures. Innovation is everywhere, and it's about everything. But that brings me into something a bit deeper. Do you think we are inventing, or are we just perhaps upgrading? Are we imagining, or are we just optimizing? Because there is a difference. Here's what really worries me. When children grow up believing that everything will eventually exist, they stop dreaming, they stop wondering. They don't imagine the future anymore. They just expect it. And expectation without imagination makes us passive. I have to tell you, all of this really scares me. A world without children being imaginative and creative and just looking to discover, for me personally, that's a heck of a scary world. You know, even podcasting used to feel magical. It was a place where anyone could have a voice, which is still true. The difference today, though, that there are literally millions of podcasts. Now, while some of them are incredibly brilliant, some of them are terribly awful, to tell you the truth. But the sad part is most of the great ones will never be heard because at the end of the day, noise wins. And you know what always wins in noise? Negative, disaster, violence, fear. A headline of dog bites man never goes well. But man bites dog is always leading the news. And it doesn't matter if we're talking truth or not. It's because anything negative is what sells. The more disastrous, the more violent, the more scary, it's gonna sell. You know, I've shared this before. Most of what I watch on TV or movies to relax and entertain myself, I like old stuff. In fact, a lot of what I watch, which I really love, are still in the black and white. And I love cowboy movies. I love cowboy series. And, you know, pretty much in every cowboy movie or episode I've seen, part of it is always violence. But you know what? It feels to me like a different type of violence than what we see today. It's almost an innocent violence because it was truly a fantasy. I could dream about being Matt Dillon or John Wayne and being a cowboy, but I didn't believe it would happen. I knew I was watching a movie. Today, on the other hand, when you watch a movie or some of the things on TV, that violence feels real and it confuses us. It disturbs us because there's no room left for the imagination. Sometimes the line between what we see in the movies or on TV and what we see in real life is very blurred. It's very hard sometimes to really see any difference. Everything is shown, nothing is suggested. You know, I will share a personal story. On the infamous day of September 9th, 2001, I walked into my house and I had just heard, as I was coming home, about what was going on in New York City with the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, being attacked. But I heard that it was in progress as we speak. And I walk into my house and I see my kids in the living room watching the Twin Towers being attacked. And I say, wow, that is so weird that they're seeing it. It wasn't until a little bit later I realized all this was a real coincidence. You see, they weren't watching TV. They were watching a video, an old-fashioned VCR, of a movie called Independence Day from the year 1996. And in that movie, exactly what happened on 9/11 was happening. The Twin Towers were attacked and destroyed. I will tell you it was done by aliens, but that's a whole nother story. Folks, when I was growing up, there was an expression, leave it to your imagination. And that was a wonderful thing. I don't need to be told everything. Let me enjoy my fantasy. Let me enjoy my imagination. Because when we don't imagine, when we don't use these functions, we grow lazy. It's like any other part of our body. We need to use it or we lose it. Now, any of you guys who've listened to this podcast for a while or read my books know that my imagination has gotten me into trouble more than once or twice. But it's also what has built me. It has made me who I am today. And I really like who I am today. And I know without a doubt I could not have done it without using my imagination. So I've been asking myself, are we losing out? Again, I realize life is a double-edged sword, but I'm getting scared. And then there comes the biggest elephant in the room right now, and that is AI, artificial intelligence. Talk about a double-edged sword. Almost all of us now use different types of AI. ChatGPT, Gemini, other companies, doesn't really matter. And it saves time and it saves money and it's a great tool for many of us. But at what cost? You know, I read articles sometimes and I know the author didn't write them. I know he or she left it to ChatGPT, which is a shame because I read those same people before ChatGPT And I actually found them much more insightful. Do we really want something that will do our thinking, our creating, our imagination? What will happen to us if we lose our imagination? And we will if we don't feel the need to stretch. And why should we even bother stretching when something else will do it for us? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have answers today. I only have questions. I'm asking myself, how is this affecting our society, our kids, our grandchildren, those of us who feel we need to take two? Maybe imagination is not about what we can invent, but maybe it's about what we still dare to believe. And maybe, just maybe, the real hoverboard isn't something that floats, but something that lifts us above who we are and where we are and lets us see who we still can become. Thank you guys once again for taking this walk with me today. And please remember, if this did something for you, pass it on to a friend. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe. This has been another episode of Take Two with Freddy. And once again, if I didn't walk it, I don't talk it.